Right. Hey there. So this, we're going to go to Cambodia right here in Southeast Asia for our final work from South and Southeast Asia for the Middle Ages. Okay, we'll return to this part of the world in the 16th century when we are in the middle of the Renaissance in Europe. Okay, so let's go to Cambodia, specifically to this site right here, Angkor. Okay. Um, this is a really interesting detail of this site. Some of you, as you see this, may instantly recognize it. The Angkor site um, was featured in the Tomb Raider film based on the video game, and it may actually be in the video game too. I'm not sure, or one of the Tomb Raider video games. It's a popular tourist destination, and it's really well known for how the local trees have sort of infiltrated the architecture with their root structure. That's not the reason we're going to look at it, but it is pretty interesting visually. So here you can see a detail in the Tomb Raider movie starring Angelina Jolie. Okay, so this is a site. Okay, we're going to look at a few different structures on the Angkor site. Perhaps you've learned about Angkor in history class, studying the Khmer Empire. Uh, so it's a complex site. The majority of the structures reflect Hindu influence, although there is some later Buddhist influence here too. It spans a huge range of time, 9th through the 15th centuries. So this is yet another site that reflects the power of the rulers. It is a site in which multiple rulers or consecutive rulers would put their own stamp or leave their legacy through commissioning new buildings. Um, and it's also a site in which we get the blending of earthly and religious power, political power with sacred power. Okay. So here is a map of the site. You can see that it's a network of complexes, many of which are surrounded by man-made moats, connected by channels. We are going to look at this site here, Angkor Wat, as well as this site, Angkor Thom. Okay. So, oh, sorry, I have some weird little graphics here. I apologize about that. So Angkor was the capital of the Khmer Empire, okay? So this is their capital city. It was established by a ruler named Jayavarman, specifically Jayavarman II. I know that's a long name. I think it's of some importance that you know who Jayavarman was. He unifies Cambodia, I believe it's in the 9th century, and declares himself the god king. Okay, so we have a king in the tradition of the Egyptian pharaohs who is seen to be a god on earth, or the incarnation of a god. This is another one of these sites that just photographs beautifully well. Okay, so a little bit of history. Jayavarman comes from Java. Okay, remember, we're in Cambodia now. So he comes from Java, from elsewhere, and comes to Cambodia and founds, a new power, and this is the beginning of the Khmer Empire. And he has this sort of story that may or may not be true, but he is said to have climbed a mountain with a Brahmin, or a Hindu priest, and at the top of this mountain, the Brahmin performed a ritual linking Jayavarman to the god Shiva. Okay, so that Jayavarman was now Shiva's representative on Earth, and in a way, even Shiva incarnate. Okay, so Jayavarman sets the precedent, and each subsequent king of the Khmer Empire were all considered god kings. Some were associated with Shiva, Some were associated with Vishnu. Later on, at the very end, we get a king who associates himself with the Buddha. And each of these kings erects new temples that have this look of a kind of man-made mountain. They build these temples to honor their union with their deity and also the divine blessing of that god. So we really have this idea of, we have this creation myth with Jayavarman ascending the mountain with the Brahmin. And so we have temples that, in a way, pay tribute to that story as being constructed mountains. There's also a reference here to the primordial mountain in Hinduism, Mount Meru, from which the entire universe was created. And the Khmer Empire also believed that when the king died, he was reabsorbed into the god. Okay? It's a very striking similarity to the ancient Egyptians. All right, so let's look around here. All right, so, oops. So we're going to look at Angkor Wat first. And Angkor Wat is probably the most famous temple complex from the Angkor site. All right, and this is what it looks like. So remember, the Angkor site spans a great period of time, 9th through 15th century. You know, I don't expect you to remember that Angkor Wat was built in the 12th century. But I do want you to understand that there was a sequence of rulers all building their own structures. So Angkor Wat is kind of built in the middle, in the 12th century, okay? Still very much Middle Ages, by a leader named Suryavarman, okay? Suryavarman II. And he changes course. Since Jayavarman, all of the rulers were associated with Shiva. Suryavarman, he associates himself with Vishnu, okay? So we get a temple here, a piece of architecture that, in a way, illustrates a myth associated with Vishnu. And I'll explain that in a second. We have here sort of an architectural rendering of Mount Meru, okay, that primordial mountain, which was said to have 5 peaks. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then one behind it. We once again have that idea of an axis mundi, okay, this kind of, as I was saying in class the other day, a thin place, to put it in the words of Mr. Kanopic, an axis mundi, a place where the divine realm and the earthly realm are linked. So we're going to look at this structure, and then we're also going to look at a detail of some carved reliefs that cover the walls of the temple, that show scenes of Vishnu. And this particular scene will help give a clue to the overall meaning of Angkor Wat, or the intention Suryavarman had in commissioning it. Okay, let's go on here. And so this is the relief. I think I showed this image briefly when I introduced Vishnu in class the other day. And it's not a separate work. It's a detail of the Angkor site, a detail of Angkor Wat. And it is known as Vishnu churning the ocean of milk. Okay? And so this is an image you need to know. And the myth goes like this. At the beginning of time, before the world was fully formed, Vishnu leads sort of a ritual to produce an elixir of immortality. Okay? And that's what we're looking at here. And I'll show you another image of it, a painting of this event that I think will help make it more clear, because this relief has lost all of its pigment, and it's a little difficult, I think, to make out what's going on here. But essentially, here is Mount Meru in the middle here, sort of behind Vishnu. Vishnu's here in the center with 4 arms. And he has wrapped a snake, a gigantic snake around the mountain. Okay, that's what this linear element is here that these figures are holding. Okay, it's a gigantic serpent known as the cosmic serpent. So he wraps it around the mountain, and the gods over here on the right and the demons over here on the left, they sort of have a tug of war, um, twisting the mountain. Okay, the you can almost think of it. It's sort of like the little mechanism inside your washing machine at home that spins, agitating the clothes. They've created something like this, but they're using the cosmic serpent to twist Mount Meru, and which is churning up the ocean of milk, and it's creating this elixir of immortality. Okay, so here's a painting of a more contemporary painting. I'm not sure when this is from. It's not an image you need to know, but I think you can better here see the gods, the demons, the serpent, and then of course the mountain upon which Vishnu sits as he sort of choreographs this whole procedure. So, um, you can see here the plan of Angkor Wat, or a map of it, the photo up here. And so in a way we have that myth paralleled in the design of the building. We have Mount Meru rising up out of an ocean of sorts, this gigantic moat that surrounds it. We have the reliefs showing the myth of the churning of the ocean of milk. And, remember, Suryavarman was associated with Vishnu. The belief was that he would be reunited or reabsorbed into Vishnu upon his death. And so I think what we have here is, in a way, Suryavarman's hopes of immortality through Vishnu, through the architectural rendering of this myth of Vishnu associated with immortality. Angkor Wat, like I was saying, is the most famous, but we are going to kind of cruise around for some other views that the AP requires you to know. We're going to look at Angkor Thom, which really just means the great city. Okay, you can see it's sort of the largest complex within Angkor. And it's built really just after Angkor Wat. Okay, so remember, Angkor was founded by Jayavarman, who came from Java and then was united with Shiva. In the 12th century, we have Suryavarman changing course and associating himself with Shiva and with Vishnu and erecting this temple in honor of Vishnu. And now we're going to look at Angkor Thom. Just a couple little details here, and we'll see some more changes. Okay, so we have another detail of the Angkor site here. This is the gate to that great city, Angkor Thom. We still have some references to the churning of the ocean of the milk. We have these gods over here and demons over here tugging on a serpent. They line the walkway. And then we will see a lot of these mountains carved with portraits of the kings as their god, as their chosen god. So a lot of some references to Vishnu here, some references to Shiva, and overall just that uniting of divine and political power. Okay, here's a little close-up of that turning of the ocean of the milk walkway. And the Bayonne is the last great temple built in Angkor. This is really the peak of the Angkor site before the Khmer Empire begins to decline. It's right in the center of Angkor Thom here. If we go back to our map, we can see the Bayonne right here. Okay, and it's the most famous detail of Angkor Thom, and it depicts the leader Jayavarman the Seventh, and he's depicted as the Buddha. Okay, I know it's badly eroded. It can be difficult to really understand the details here, but he converted to Buddhism, so we get yet another sort of monument to a god, monument to that divine and political union. Some nice close-ups here. So in closing, and I'm sorry, this should probably say Angkor rather than Angkor Wat, but we have the merging of the divine and the political power. We have the idea of Hinduism and Buddhism spreading to Cambodia through trade, just the same as it spread to Java through trade. And then we have ideas of mythology and hope for immortality informing architectural design. Okay, so that is going to be the end of our studies in South and Southeast Asia during the time we think of as the Middle Ages in Europe.